Welcome to Solace with Jilly Collier, a gentle space for grief, loss and remembrance. I'm Jilly Collier, a bereavement counsellor, civil celebrant and lifelong animal lover. In this series, I'll be sharing quiet reflections and compassionate support for anyone navigating bereavement, pet loss, anticipatory grief, or the ache of missing someone deeply loved. There is no rush here, no pressure to feel a certain way, just gentle words, honest comfort, and a little solace for what you are carrying. Hello and welcome. Today I want to talk gently about something that many people experience but may not always have the words for. Anticipatory grief. That is the grief we can begin to feel before someone has died. It may happen when someone we love is elderly, seriously ill, frail, or slowly declining. It may happen when we are caring for a parent, a partner, a close friend, or another beloved person in our life. It can also happen when we are caring for a much-loved pet and we know that their body is becoming tired or that a difficult goodbye may be coming. If this is where you are, I want to say this carefully. You are not cold for grieving before the death has happened. You are not disloyal. You are not giving up. You are human. In my work as a bereavement counsellor, I have sat with many people who are living in this painful in-between place. The person they love is still here, and yet something has already begun to change. The life they knew together may already be different. The conversations may be harder, the roles may have shifted, the future may feel full of dread. And sometimes, even while they are still caring, still loving, still doing everything they can, they are already grieving. And that can feel very confusing. People often expect grief to begin after a death. But in truth, grief can begin much earlier. It can begin with a diagnosis. It can begin when someone becomes more dependent. It can begin when you notice they are not quite themselves. It can begin when a pet no longer greets you in the same way, or when their eyes tell you they are tired. It can begin in the quiet realization that life is moving towards a goodbye you do not feel ready for. Anticipatory grief can feel like sadness, but it can also feel like anxiety, irritability, numbness, exhaustion, guilt, helplessness, or even anger. You may find yourself crying at small things. You may feel constantly on edge. You may feel as though you are waiting for the phone to ring or watching every breath, every change, every appointment, every sign. You may be caring for someone's practical needs while silently carrying the fear of losing them. And that is a very heavy thing to hold. One of the hardest parts of anticipatory grief is that the person or the animal you love is still here. So you may feel that you do not have permission to grieve yet. You may think, I should be grateful for the time we still have. And of course, there may be gratitude, there may be love, there may be precious moments. But gratitude does not cancel grief. You can be grateful someone is still here and heartbroken that they are changing. You can love them deeply and feel exhausted by caring. You can want more time and also dread watching them suffer. These feelings can exist together. They do not make you a bad person. They show that you are living through something emotionally complex. Another feeling that often comes with anticipatory grief is guilt. People may feel guilty because part of them wants the suffering to end. They may think, how can I think that? How can I wish for an end when I do not want to lose them? If that thought has crossed your mind, please hear this with kindness. Wanting suffering to end is not the same as wanting someone gone. It is often an expression of love. When we love someone, we do not want them to be in pain. We do not want to see them frightened, confused, struggling, or no longer able to enjoy the life they once knew. With animals, this can be especially difficult because they cannot speak to us in words. We watch their bodies, their behaviour, their appetite, their tiredness. and we try to understand what they need from us. That can be a lonely responsibility. As someone who has loved dogs and cats throughout my life, and as someone who has worked closely with animals as a dog groomer, I know how deeply people can love the animals in their care. I have seen the tenderness with which people speak about an ageing dog, a poorly cat, or a companion who has been beside them through years of ordinary and extraordinary life. These bonds matter. And when we begin to sense that goodbye is coming, it can feel as though the ground is shifting beneath us. In my work as a civil celebrant, I have also seen how important it is for people to honour love, not only after a death, but in the time before it. Sometimes we think remembrance is only something that happens afterwards, but there can be small acts of remembrance while someone is still living. There can be conversations, touches, quiet moments, photographs, stories, music, familiar places, favourite foods, a hand held, a paw stroked, a blanket tucked around them. These moments do not have to be grand. Often the smallest moments are the ones that carry the most love. You might sit beside someone without needing to say much. You might tell them something you want them to know. You might thank them. You might say, "I love you," even if you have said it many times before. You might allow yourself to be present for one ordinary moment, rather than trying to make everything perfect. With a pet, it may be sitting together in the garden, letting them rest beside you, speaking softly, brushing them gently, or simply being near. Connection does not have to be dramatic to be meaningful. It can be quiet, it can be simple, it can be enough. Some people worry that preparing emotionally means they are giving up. They may avoid thinking about what is coming because it feels like a betrayal. But preparing is not the same as abandoning hope. Sometimes preparation is one of the ways we care. It might mean having gentle conversations with family. It might mean understanding someone's wishes. It might mean speaking to a vet, a doctor, a hospice team, or someone you trust. It might mean knowing who you would call, what support is available, or how you might want to mark the loss when it comes. These things can be painful to think about, but they can also bring a little steadiness into a frightening time. You are allowed to prepare and still hope. You are allowed to cry and still care. You are allowed to feel tired and still love. You are allowed to be scared. There is no perfect way to live through anticipatory grief. There is no neat path through it. Some days you may cope well. Other days you may feel overwhelmed by the smallest change. That does not mean you are failing. It means you are carrying love under strain. If you are caring for someone, I also want to gently remind you that your needs still matter. When someone else is ill, declining or nearing the end of life, it is very easy to disappear into the role of carer. You may become the organiser, the advocate, the nurse, the driver, the decision maker, the person who holds everything together. But underneath all of that, you are still someone who is hurting too. You may need rest. You may need someone to listen. You may need a break, even a small one. You may need to say, "I am finding this hard." That does not take anything away from the person or pet you love. It simply acknowledges that love does not make us limitless. Sometimes people say to me that they feel guilty for grieving while their loved one is still alive. But I often think anticipatory grief is a sign of how much that relationship has mattered. You are not grieving nothing. You are grieving the changes already happening. You are grieving the future you may not have. You are grieving the person as they were, the pet as they were, the life as it was, and the goodbye that is approaching. That is real grief. And it deserves gentleness. So if you are in this place today between love and dread, between caring and grieving, between holding on and preparing to let go, I hope you can be kind to yourself. You do not have to do this perfectly. You do not have to be brave every minute. You do not have to push the sadness away simply because the goodbye has not yet happened. Let yourself take one day, 1 hour, one small moment at a time. Make room for connection where you can. Accept help where it is offered. Say what needs to be said, gently and in your own time. And remember this, preparing your heart for loss does not mean you love any less. It may mean you love very deeply. Thank you for listening. Today I want to speak gently about something that is often deeply felt, but not always deeply understood. The grief we can experience when a beloved pet dies. If you are listening to this because you have lost a dog, a cat, a horse, a rabbit, or any animal who was part of your life, I want to begin by saying this very simply. You are not overreacting, you are not being silly, and you do not need to justify why this hurts so much. For many people, a pet is not just a pet. They are part of the rhythm of the home. They are there in the ordinary moments that make up a life. They greet us at the door. They sit beside us when we are quiet. They follow us from room to room. They know our routines, our moods, our voices, and in their own way, they become woven into the fabric of who we are. I have loved dogs and cats throughout my life, and I know how much they can hold. I have also worked for many years as a dog groomer, so I have seen very closely the relationships people have with their animals. I have seen the elderly dog who is treated with such tenderness because they have walked beside someone through years of change. I have seen the nervous rescue dog become a companion, a shadow, a comfort. I have seen people speak about their animals with the same warmth, worry, and devotion they would offer to any family member. And as a civil celebrant, I have also had the privilege of helping people mark loss, love, and remembrance. That experience has taught me something very important. Grief follows love. Where there has been deep attachment, there can be deep pain. It does not matter whether that love was for a person or an animal. Love is love, and loss is loss. One of the difficult things about pet bereavement is that other people may not always understand it. Sometimes the comments are meant kindly, but they can still hurt. Someone might say, "You can get another one," or "At least they had a good life," or "It was only a dog," or "It was only a cat." But to the person grieving, those words can feel as though the relationship has been dismissed. Because you are not only grieving the animal who has died, you may also be grieving the routines you shared, the sound of their paws on the floor, the little face at the window, the bowl in the kitchen, the lead by the door, the space on the sofa, the quiet presence at your feet, the habit of checking where they are before you leave the house, or the way your day had shape because they were in it. And when they are gone, the absence can be everywhere. It can be there first thing in the morning when no one is waiting to be fed. It can be there when you come home and the house feels too still. It can be there when you open a cupboard and see their food, their brush, their medication, their toys. These are small things, but they are not small losses. They are reminders of a bond that lived in the everyday. You may also feel surprised by the strength of your grief. Some people tell themselves, "I shouldn't be this upset," especially if they have experienced other losses in life. They may compare their grief and think they have no right to feel as devastated as they do. But grief is not a competition. We do not need to rank our losses before we are allowed to feel them. Your grief belongs to you. It is shaped by your relationship, your history, your circumstances, and what your pet meant in your life. For some people, an animal may have been their main source of companionship. For others, they may have been there through illness, loneliness, family change, bereavement, anxiety, or recovery. Some animals are witnesses to our lives in ways that are hard to explain to anyone else. They are there when we are not performing, when we are not trying to be brave, when we are tired, tearful, unwell, or simply ourselves. That kind of love can feel very safe. So when it is gone, the loss can reach places in us that even we did not expect. There may also be guilt. Pet bereavement often comes with difficult decisions. Perhaps you had to decide about euthanasia. Perhaps you are wondering whether you acted too soon or waited too long. Perhaps you keep replaying the final days or hours, asking yourself if you missed something, if you should have known, if you could have done more. If that is where you are, please be gentle with yourself. Most decisions made at the end of an animal's life are made from love, not failure. They are often made in pain, with imperfect information under emotional strain, and with the hope of preventing suffering. It is very human to look back and question, but questioning does not mean you did wrong. It often means you cared deeply. Some people also find that after a pet dies, they do not know what to do with the love that is still there, because love does not end simply because the life has ended. You may still want to speak their name. You may still expect to see them in their favourite place. You may still feel them as part of the home. That is not strange. It is part of grief. In my work around remembrance, I often see how important it is to honour what has mattered. We do not have to rush to move on. Sometimes what helps is to find a gentle way to remember. You might light a candle. Keep a photo nearby. Write down some memories. Plant something in the garden. Keep their collar, blanket, or favourite toy somewhere meaningful. Talk about them with someone who understands. There is no correct way to do this. Some people need to clear things away quickly because it is too painful. Others need to leave everything exactly as it is for a while. Neither response is wrong. Grief has its own timing. What I would say is this: try not to judge yourself by how other people think you should be coping. If you need to cry, cry. If you need to talk about them, talk. And if you cannot talk yet, that is all right too. If you find yourself laughing at a memory and then crying straight afterwards, that is normal. And if you are still grieving weeks, months, or even longer after the loss, that does not mean you are stuck. It may simply mean that the love was significant. Pet bereavement can be lonely because it is often hidden. People may go back to work, answer messages, carry on with daily life, while privately feeling heartbroken. So if this is you, I want you to hear this clearly. Your loss matters. The relationship mattered. The grief you feel is a reflection of the place they held in your life. You do not have to explain that to everyone, but I really hope you can allow yourself to know it. A pet can be family, your companion, a source of comfort, a little soul who changed the atmosphere of a home. And when they die, it is natural to feel their absence deeply. So today, perhaps all you need to do is be kind to yourself. Take the day slowly. Let the grief come in waves if it needs to. Say their name. Remember the love. And when others do not quite understand, please know that many of us do, because love is love, and loss is loss. Thank you for listening.